Welcome to the Shreveport Connection with Tommy. This video is on the Wrestlemania and the pre-show and also last night's Hall of Fame ceremony. Okay, but some very brief news. TNA President Dixie Carter stated on Twitter that she met with WWE executive Stephanie McMahon for the first time this past week. And Carter wrote on Twitter, "Wish her and her family much success this weekend." And you can follow Dixie online at twitter.com/TNA Dixie. Now, Stephanie has yet to respond to Dixie's tweet to verify if that was actually said to her. Though I'll let you know if she actually does. It would have been fun to have been a fly on the wall for that first encounter and then to hear what both women actually had to say to their confidants afterwards. Well, Bill Pivotz attended the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony on Saturday night and sent the following report. He was sitting in section 209 and had an awesome view of the stage. Michael Cole gave updates as to when we would begin. Beforehand, there were promos of different Wrestlemania matches shown on the big screen. Superstars and legends took their seats. X-Pac, Billy Gunn, Iron Sheik, Shawn Michaels, Dave Sando were among those who got big pops. Every time John Cena was shown, he got booed. Even during the Make-A-Wish promos. Jerry the King Lawler came out and welcomed us to the Hall of Fame ceremony. Mick Foley was the first one to be inducted, and the reporter was shocked. Terry Funk came out and gave him a little speech. He talked about their time in Japan and the Hell in a Cell match at the King of the Ring. He concluded by welcoming Dude Love, Mankind, Cactus Jack, and my personal favorite, Mick Foley. The crowd erupted. "Thank you, Foley." Chants broke out. Foley says that that's between himself, Bruno Sammartino, and Bob Backlund. They held the WWE Championships for a total of 6,225 days combined. He then said that he held it for 47 of those days. He then talks about his story of seeing Jimmy Snuka fly from the top of the cage. He thanked his trainer, Shane Douglas, and then Jim Ross. He also thanked The Undertaker for putting him on the map at the King of the Ring. He said that if there's one thing Undertaker shouldn't do, and that's tweet. He said there's something wrong with a dead man saying LOL. He also mentioned that he's never beaten Chris Jericho. Jericho then went on stage, lay down, and let Foley drop an elbow. Punk went on stage and counted a 3 count. At the end, Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus came out and hugged Foley. Lawler then said, "If anyone knows anything about him, you will know why the next inductee is one of his favorite superstars of all time." Video package for Trish Stratus plays. Stephanie came out and talked about Trish Stratus tearing the McMahon family apart, but she said those were her favorite WWE moments. Stephanie then dropped a hint by saying, according to Trish, she might not be done yet. And then Trish came up and thanked the fans and then unraveled a scroll to reveal tons of names that she couldn't thank tonight. Among them were the makeup artist, her hairstylist, Kurt Angle, D'Lo Brown, and Edge. She thanked WWE Canada representative Carl DeMarco, her trainer Ron Hutchinson, and Jim Ross. She even took out the same pen she signed her contract with. She covered up the old logo because they had to get the F out so the pandas don't get pissed off, and the crowd loved it. She named Fit Finley and the divas she competed with, like Molly Holly, Jazz, Mickie James, Victoria, and her bestie Lita. At the end, she thanked her husband, Ron, and the crowd let him have it. Every time she would bring his name up, they booed just as much as they did Cena. I could tell Trish got a little irritated. She ended her speech by revealing that she's pregnant. The crowd then began a Ron chant. Awesome. Lawler was back and said, "Speaking for all the men in here, Trish, we love you. Ron, we hate you." Stevie Ray was up next, was the next man out. He talked about their childhood growing up, how their dad passed when Booker T was 11 months old. Booker always followed Stevie around. When their mother died a few years later, And when Booker was in jail, he also spoke about their beginnings in the wrestling business. Booker made his way out. He said that there was one thing missing. Some fans chanted, "Spinaroonie!" But he said it was his mom. But that he was content. He talked about being in Germany when Foley's ear fell off. He thanked numerous people from WCW like Dusty Rhodes and Arn Anderson. He talked about the addition of Sherry Martel to the Harlem Heat and his climb up the singles ladder. He thanked JR 3 in a row and The Undertaker. He finished with thanking his wife. He said that if any of us booed her, he'd kick their asses. He was about to walk off when Stevie Ray stopped him. He signaled for the Spinaroonie. Booker hesitated, but he complied and gave a Hall of Fame worthy Spinaroonie. Next up was Bob Backlund. Maria Menounos came out and talked about her history as a wrestling fan. She talked about Backlund's great determination and the never give up attitude. She also talked about Backlund walking away from the wrestling because he didn't want to turn heel. She then rattled on about ridiculous facts like he's been to the doctor twice since 1974. The crowd booed her as "We Want Bob," and what chants broke out. For those that don't remember, he was heel in TNA, and he was in his last run with WWE. Because remember, he thought he was always calling everybody plebeians. Finally, Mr. Bob Backlund appeared with a great reception. He thanked Maria for the speech and said his respects Bruno Sammartino because he never gave up. Then he said he was hurt by Vince McMahon taking over the WWE from his father. He didn't continue with that and talked about his childhood in Minnesota. He said he had to fetch water from outside and go to the bathroom in an outhouse. He then talked about losing his high school wrestling matches. He said he went home and trained, only lost one match the following year, the state championship, and then he yelled about never giving up and paced across the stage. Backlund's crazy. You can say that to Backlund, just don't say that to AJ. After putting his nephew in a headlock, Mr. McMahon tiptoed behind him and signaled for him to wrap it up. The speech finally comes to an end, and even when the lights dimmed and the mic was cut off, he kept running back to it and screaming. The Donald Trump video package was shown, and boos ran through the garden. Vince McMahon came out to a "Thank you, Vince" chant. He thanked us in return. He talked about McMahon-Trump relationship from WrestleMania 4 and 5. He then showed a certain blowhard, Jesse Ventura, interviewing Trump at WrestleMania 20. He then talked about the Battle of the Billionaires from WrestleMania 23. He said he's a handsome older gentleman, but an ugly bald person. Someone yelled out, "Uglier than Hulk Hogan?" or something along those lines, which topped Vince. He then said someone mentioned Hulk Hogan, despite the unfortunate occurrence, and continued with his speech. Nice. As McMahon was about to introduce Trump, the fans began to boo again. Vince quips, "You're not even going to let him come out here before you boo him." The crowd responded with "No chance." The boos continued as Trump walked out. He received a cheap pop by mentioning WrestleMania 4 and Andre the Giant. He challenged Vince to a fight at WrestleMania 30 and then introduced his family when introducing his daughter, Ivanka. He said, "Finally, someone from the Trump family like you like." He listed his achievements and finished by saying being inducted into the Hall of Fame is his greatest honor. It was a short speech, but he played to the crowd well. Finally, it was time for Bruno Sammartino's induction. The video package was shown, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger came out. He was welcomed with a good reaction. He said that Madison Square Garden was packed and asked where we were when his movie came out last year. Funny stuff. He talked about Sammartino's strength, something he knows a little about. He hyped himself up by saying he lifted 400 pounds last week, and Chris Christie out of a chair. He got jokes. He concluded by saying Sammartino is a great immigrant story and overcame bullying. Bruno Sammartino came out to a standing ovation. He was about to begin, but the crowd gave him another standing ovation. He said that the parents and grandparents of those in attendance probably came to see him years ago, and the warm reception makes them feel like they're still here tonight. He talked about still being able to work out and being in great shape. Fans comically chatted one more match. He then talked about the responsibility Madison Square Garden has for making him a star. He believed that Madison Square Garden also allowed him to be a headliner everywhere he went. He then talked about his childhood in Nazi-occupied Italy and how his mother risked her life to retrieve food for him and his siblings. He said that because he was very sick, they weren't allowed to come to America and had to wait a few more years. He then talked about being bullied and how being introduced into the YMCA, not the dance, and beginning lifting weights. He said that the schedule of the WWE took on toll on him and his family. He was given 2 days off a month to visit his family. He married his high school sweetheart, and they still are together today. He closed with thanking the fans, and he owes all of his success to the fans who have supported him all these years. The inductees then came back on the stage as the fans gave one last standing ovation. The night was awesome. As a product of the Attitude Era, seeing the respect these legends have is unbelievable. Booker T's Rags to Riches story was heartfelt. His speech to Charmel was wonderful. Trish also thanked her mom. She had to retire because her mom had cancer, but is now cancer-free, which brought a tear to her eye. Maria Menounos rambled on about Bob, which got the crowd antsy. Backlund rambled about nothing, which got the crowd laughing and confusing. Bruno looked in great shape, and his speech was awesome. I recommend going to a Hall of Fame ceremony sometime in your near future. This class was stacked, and it will be hard to top. And I'm glad I was able to see some of the superstars I and my parents grew up watching get inducted into the Hall of Fame. And the reporter said the loudest pops were Bruno Sammartino, Mick Foley, and CM Punk at the beginning. And the most heat was John Cena tying with Ron. But they actually got him in a close second, Trish's husband. And third, finally, Donald Trump. And now for your preview for WrestleMania. That was also supposedly live. East Rutherford, New Jersey, at the MetLife Stadium. The free preview, Josh Matthews and Mike Stryker introduced the show from ringside and hyped the Wade Barrett versus Miz match for the Intercontinental title. Stryker hyped the new ways to view the event, and they hyped that it would be the most interactive WrestleMania in history. Scott Stanford took over the broadcast and was joined in by a box by JR, Dusty Rhodes. I'm just a common man. And we got the Boom 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 Kofi Kingston, all wearing suits just like ESPN does when they're in their box. I love this approach. It's similar to what the networks do for pregame shows for major sports. I've begged for this approach many times over the years, so I hope this becomes a norm rather than just for WrestleMania. This would be perfect for the WWE Network pregame style show. Then they show an Alberto Del Rio versus Jack Swagger video airing. Stanford, Ross, Kingston, and Rhodes discussed the World Heavyweight Championship match. WrestleMania video featured shots of the countless fans airing. Matthews and Stryker spoke at ringside. Stryker noted that the crowd was electric. The crowd roared. Matthews set up a text contest for WrestleMania 30 tickets. The announcer set up a Triple H versus Brock Lesnar video. The four-man team spoke about the Triple H versus Lesnar match, and they went to the crowd where Tony Dawson interviewed fans briefly. And earlier this week, Brodus Clay was promising everybody WrestleMania 30 tickets, just if you added Gail Kim, who's in TNA, to your friends list on Facebook. Let's see if he's guaranteeing them. Backstage, The Miz spoke with Snooki, who is a social media ambassador. Wade Barrett entered the room and they jawed while Snooki stood between them. Barrett said he would show Miz a very different reality. Really? Snooki asked. Barrett said yes and then left the room. Snooki said something about spray tans. Stryker and Matthews spoke at ringside and set up the Ryback versus Mark Henry video. The four-man team spoke again, but there were some streaming issues on YouTube and Facebook. It's internet. What do you expect? Can't they just air these pre-shows on social media platforms and on the pay-per-view channel? Well, shouldn't they normally do it on the WWE website themselves too? An Undertaker and CM Punk video played. Stanford and Ross spoke in the box. And then a WWE shop commercial aired. More fan footage was shown from Access, and then they set up a fan footage from Tout. Striker and Matthews spoke at ringside about all the platforms Wrestlemania is available on. A video set up the Shield versus Sheamus, Randy Orton, and Big Show. The feed is lousy, so the reporter here for the pre-show going back and forth between YouTube and Facebook. Should have just stayed on WWE.com. And it can say just about anything between the two, but it's been more trouble than it's worth. .NET reader Sean Valentino noted that it's raining at MetLife Stadium. It's not showing up on the stream, so it must be light rain. It's not expected to last, based on what .NET weather correspondent Brick Camlin reported earlier today. And you get your one match pre-show title change: Wade Barrett versus Miz for the Intercontinental Championship, and Miz wins. Miz hit a move formerly known as the reality check for a 2 count. Barrett went for the waist slam, but Miz slipped away and went for the skull crushing finale for the finish. But Barrett dodged it. Barrett came back with a winds of change, twisting slam for a closed 2 count. And then Barrett hit waist slam for a 2 count. He complained to the referee, and when he turns around, Miz kicks him, took him down, and applied the figure 4. Barrett taps out to end the match. Miz celebrated with a belt and headed to the back. The match only took 4 minutes 10 seconds to win the Intercontinental belt. Decent match with an odd finish. They were hitting big moves on one another, but the figure 4 was applied awkwardly and kind of out of nowhere. The live crowd was a lot more receptive to Miz and the title change than I anticipated. Back in the box. And no, that's not Jack in the Box. I said back in the box. Stanford, Ross, Kingston, and Rhodes discussed the main event. Ross said if the match goes under 30 minutes, then The Rock wins. But Cena wins if the match goes over 30 minutes. The other panelists checked in on the main event. Stanford set up a video package on The Rock versus Cena match. A live overhead shot of the stadium closed the pre-show. All that in 1 hour time. WrestleMania opened with the footage of Hurricane Sandy that was narrated by New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. He closed the piece by welcoming viewers to WrestleMania 29. And a WrestleMania video aired with a narrator who closed by telling us that this is WrestleMania. And get this, there's no America the Beautiful, there's no national anthem at all mentioned. Michael Cole introduced the show as the camera pulled back and showed the amazing set with the Statue of Liberty piece above the ring and the New York set on the stage. Jerry Lawler and JBL were also on commentary. First match was their 6-man tag match. Sheamus, Randy Orton, and Big Show versus the Shield, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, and Roman Reigns in the 6-man match. There's a great fan sign that reads, "If Cena wins, we complain online." Amen. Well, guess what? I bet they'll be seeing a lot of complaints online. Reigns hove for the babyfaces early on as Big Show performs his slaps to the chest on one of the Shield members, while Orton and Sheamus smiled in their corner. It was a cool spot that the cameras were clearly prepared for Rollins running towards the face corner and the camera and performed a drop kick on Orton that knocked him off the apron. Sheamus delivered his chest pounds to the chest of Rollins. Sheamus went to the ropes, but he was pulled down to ringside. The Shield members isolated Sheamus in the ring, set him up for the triple power bomb, but Big Show ran in from nowhere and speared all 3 men to break it up. Sheamus crawled towards his corner for a tag and was reaching for Show when Orton tagged himself in instead. Orton was setting up for the RKO on Ambrose. Rollins leapt off the top rope behind him, but Orton saw him coming and caught him with the RKO off the top rope. Reigns speared Orton, and then Ambrose covered Orton and got the win for his team. Shield members headed out through the crowd. The Shield defeated Randy Orton in 10 minutes 40 seconds. After the match, Show got in Orton's face and complained about the tag. Okay, Orton said. Show stumbled, hit the knockout punch, the WMB on Sheamus in the corner, and then hit the WMB on Orton. Show left the ring with Sheamus and Orton lying on the mat. Coleslaw said, "You have to feel bad for Orton because he's the guy who went to bat to get Show on the team." JBL defended show because things went fine until they didn't tag him in. And Lawler said he couldn't argue with that. A good match with the right team winning. The faces are all singles wrestlers, whereas the Shield is a trio. They really had to win here, so knocking out his teammates afterwards was the most predictable part. There was a lot of suspicion that Orton would turn. Perhaps this was the beginning since he tagged himself into the match. Well, my prediction was if Cena was going to turn heel, this would have been his way of turning heel. But being that they set this match up first, that wasn't going to happen. A video focused on Cena's supposedly down year, early followed by The Rock looking strong at the end. Slicker was shown sitting in the crowd with her husband. Match number 2, Ryback versus Mark Henry. What I was told by some cell phone emails and messages, that this match wasn't much of a match. Ryback and Henry met in the middle of the ring and jawed at one another. They ran into one another again and neither man budged. Rinse and repeat. They traded punches and the crowd did yeah boo bit, with Ryback getting the boos, though not all at intense at this point. Henry got the early advantage with a power slam. Ryback came back and went for a suplex, but Henry stopped him and put him on the ring apron. Henry ran Ryback into the ring post. Henry clotheslined Ryback, who tumbled to the floor. Back inside the ring, finally, Henry maintained control with punches, various shots, and a bear hug. Daniel Bryan was happy somewhere backstage. Ryback fought back and then hoisted up Henry in a shell shock position, but Henry grabbed the ropes and fell onto Ryback, which was probably a botch, and got the pinfall in an 8-minute match. Trainers checked on Ryback afterwards, but Henry told him to get out. Ryback performed a spinebuster on Henry. A good portion of the crowd booed. Ryback performed shell shock on Henry. He led to the crowd and Phoebe more chants. Flat match with a surprising finish. Didn't think that there was any chance of Ryback losing again, considering how many times he's lost. I don't think he's lost anything here because of the way it was done. But I don't think he's gained anything by losing on the biggest stage either. Obviously, this keeps the feud alive, and Ryback had some haters, but the crowd has been pretty tame as far as the heel love goes thus far. And I'm expecting Mark Henry to be retiring within the next month or so. So that'll give Ryback his win. It'll probably be a retirement match. If I can't win, I'm going to retire. Some type of stipulation like that. Well, at ringside, the announcers played with Sheamus and Rey Mysterio action figures. JBL pounded on the Mysterio figure himself. Lindley and Garcia introduced the representatives from the Special Olympics and Stephanie McMahon. They all waved from the stage. What happened to American Beautiful? Meanwhile, the hater from .net, Dave, predicted that Eugene would do a run-in here with a Special Olympics segment. Match number 3, Kane and Daniel Bryan. Well, guess what? Didn't happen. Kane and Daniel Bryan, Team Hell No, versus Dolph and Big E Langston, with AJ in the corner for the WWE Tag Titles. They did the 18-second tease, only this time it was Bryan who performed a roundhouse kick and came close to pinning Ziggler very early in the match. Nice touch. Langston and Kane ended up in the ring early on. Langston showed off his strength by picking up Kane and slamming him on his knee a few times. Later, there was a very good near fall with Dolph catching Kane with a zigzag for the near fall. Dolph tried to hit Kane with the Money in the Bank briefcase, but Kane ducked it. Kane chokeslammed Ziggler, and then Bryan performed a top rope headbutt on Dolph before pinning him. Bryan led the crowd in the huge Borgasm chants afterwards. Instead of the nose, it was the yes chants. So, Team Hell No defeated Dolph Ziggler and Big E to retain the tag titles in 6 minutes 15 seconds. Entertaining match while it lasted. They didn't get nearly enough time for it to be memorable. Production did a good job with the slow motion replay of showing how high Ziggler was when Kane chokeslammed him. A video featuring John Cena promoting Make-A-Wish aired. Fandango's music played. A group of dancers dressed in purple dresses appeared on stage and danced. Fandango and his lady, who was wearing white, danced their way out behind the dancers. The brunette dancer was back. The lights went out for Jericho's newest light bright jacket. Jericho received a big pop and pyro went off over the New York set behind Jericho. Very cool entrance. Match number 4, Jericho versus Fandango. This is your upset of the evening. There was a loud Y2J chant to start the match. Fandango danced until Jericho took him down. Fandango took an early powder. Jericho chased after him. They went back into the ring where Jericho tackled him and threw more punches. Jericho kicked Fandango's ass, literally, and eventually dropped him on the ropes for a superplex from the superplex position. Fandango danced briefly, but Jericho caught him with a code breaker a minute 50 seconds in. Fandango's momentum took him to ringside. Jericho, who had a small cut on his forehead, dove off the top rope and onto Fandango at ringside. Fandango went on the offense when Jericho charged him in the corner and missed. Fandango went to the top rope and performed his leg drop. Jericho kicked out at 2 count, 7 minutes 5 seconds in the match. JBL said it would have been the biggest upset in sports entertainment history. Jericho came back briefly, but Fandango put him down with a clothesline. Fandango went to the top rope again, but Jericho recovered and knocked him down. Jericho placed Fandango on the top rope and then set up for the superplex again. Fandango fought him off and knocked him down to the mat with a headbutt. Fandango went for the top rope leg drop and missed again. Jericho went for the lion salt and overshot it because Fandango put his knees up. Jericho immediately went for the lion salt again, but Fandango caught him in a small package and got the clean win. The match took 9 minutes 10 seconds. The announcers played this up as a big upset, which is the way to position it for the masses, even though so many hardcore fans assumed Fandango would go over. The crowd was into Jericho's early fast-paced offense. I really liked the pre-match entrances, as they helped make the match feel more important. The match was decent, but the first 75 minutes of the pay-per-view just hasn't felt Wrestlemania important. Announcers narrated highlights of The Miz beating Wade Barrett to win the Intercontinental title on the pre-show. A video focused on The Rock aired, featuring his fans saying, I am one of the millions. It concluded with Rock holding up the title as his voice could be heard saying, and I am the people's champion. The arena went dark and a collection of classic footage was shown on the big screen featuring big high spots and big names past and present. Sean Diddy Combs made a slow rise from under the stage and then delivered his performance on the stage. The announcer spoke at ringside and said, Combs is a social media ambassador for Be a Star. They went to Zeb Coulter and Jack Swagger video, followed by Alberto Del Rio gazing at the Statue of Liberty and getting all patriotic. Yeah, they went from Be a Star mentioned to Zeb Coulter. Good stuff. The Diddy performance was quick, yet served as an annual reminder of how WWE manages to make me despise the WrestleMania theme song by the end of the time the event takes place. Zeb and Swagger were in the ring as the camera showed the camouflage vehicle that they apparently drove to the ring. How could they not show that? Coulter cut a promo in the ring complaining about New York and all the people who speak foreign languages in the United States and plot God knows what against us. Coulter asked the fans if they are too gutless to do something about it. Then Swagger will reclaim the country by winning the World Heavyweight Championship. Ricardo Rodriguez comes out and introduced Alberto Del Rio, who came out wearing a white robe with gold trim. Red, white, and green fireworks shot off behind the stadium. Lillian Garcia handled the in-ring introductions for the title match. Match number 5, Alberto Del Rio with Ricardo Rodriguez in his corner versus Jack Swagger with Zeb Coulter in his corner for the World Heavyweight Championship. They went ringside early with Del Rio on the offense. They got back inside the ring. Del Rio got distracted by Coulter while standing on the second rope. Swagger used the distraction to take control of the match. Later, Del Rio had Swagger pinned, but Coulter reached in and put Swagger's leg on the bottom rope. I didn't do it, Coulter said. Ricardo walked over on the crutches, and Coulter kicked Ricardo's ankle and took one of his crutches. Del Rio headed to ringside where Swagger attacked him from behind. Swagger roughed up Del Rio on the floor and then threw him back inside the ring. When Swagger followed, Del Rio immediately put him in a cross arm breaker, and Swagger tapped out. Michael Strahan was shown going nuts in the crowd, and Coulter was shown seething at ringside. Alberto Del Rio won in a 10-minute and 30-second match to retain the world title. They cut to a commercial for the National Guard. Ring announcer Justin Roberts thanked the U.S. military personnel in attendance. Coulter did his best to generate some heat with his pre-match promo, but the crowd didn't seem all that concerned about the outcome. The commercial playing after the match took the wind out of the sails of the fans who were hoping that Dolph Ziggler was going to cash in. This has felt like a very ordinary wrestling show set in a big stadium with an amazing set. CM Punk and Undertaker video package was shown. Living Color performed with Coulter personality for CM Punk's ring entrance. Undertaker made his entrance and Punk let out a primal scream right after the gong sounded. It's pretty cool to see Fred Sanford filling in for singer Corey Glover. Wait, what? Okay, honestly, I dig that the guy is just aging normally rather than getting a bunch of procedures done to mask the aging process. Watching Paul Heyman bounce to the ring to the beat of the song with an urn in his hand was pretty damn comical. I love Punk's scream when Taker's gong sounded. It beats the cheesy look of fear we've seen from so many people. It made me feel like we're about to see a fight. So we get match number 6. Undertaker versus Punk with Paul Heyman. Punk tossed around the urn at ringside before the match. Taker went after Punk, who dodged him, then slapped Taker across the face. Taker chased after Punk, who dodged him again, and then fired away with repeated shots in the corner. The crowd has come to life finally and feels like it's Wrestlemania. Taker grabbed Punk by the throat, but Punk caught him with a kick to the head. Punk ran the ropes and ate a big boot from Taker, who then tossed Punk to ringside. Taker went after Punk at ringside and whipped him into the timekeeper's area. Taker pulled the monitors from the Spanish broadcast table. So, what does that tell you? Taker picks up Punk and ran his back into the ring post. It sets up a table spot coming up. Back inside the ring, Punk regained control. He took Taker's arm and backed him into the corner. Everyone knows what was coming and came to life again. Punk performed the Taker's old school spot. It's nothing sacred. Yelled, "My buddy Pooch." Taker came back and he missed a big boot, and then Punk regained control. Punk focused his attack on Taker's left shoulder. Taker fought back with punches, but Punk put him down with a swinging neck breaker. Heyman yelled at Punk that Punk is half a second away from ending the streak. He told him that he's gaining momentum with every move. Punk, who was wearing purple and black old school Taker colors, went to the top rope for old school again, but at this time it didn't work. Taker eventually knocked Punk to the floor. "What happened?" Heyman yelled. "You've got to get up." Taker ran the ropes and teased a dive over the top, but Heyman stood on the ring apron to stop him. Taker grabbed Heyman, but Punk recovered and hit Taker from behind. Punk performed a top rope elbow drop for a 2 count at 11 minutes 10 seconds in the match. Punk motioned for the GTS. He went for the move, but Taker slipped out and chokeslammed him. Taker covered Punk, who kicked out at the last moment at 11 minutes 55 seconds. Taker had a flurry of offense that included snake eyes, but when he bounced off the ropes, Punk caught him with a leg lariat. Punk clotheslined Taker to the floor. Punk removed the last monitor from the Spanish announce table, but Taker recovered and set him up for the last ride. However, Punk slid out of that and caught Taker with a kick to the head that left Taker lying on the table. Punk looked at Taker and looked to the top rope at 14 minutes 50 seconds. He went to the top rope, performed a top rope elbow drop onto Taker on the table, but the table did not break. The table continued to be the biggest heel in the tables continued to be the biggest heels in big WWE matches. They replayed the footage, and Punk landed on his hip and appeared to slam his ankle off the side of the table. Taker raced back to the ring to break up the referee's count at 9. Back inside the ring, Taker applied the Hell's Gate submission hold. Punk flipped over and turned it into a pin for a 2 count. Punk applied the Anaconda device on, but Taker sat up. Punk went for the GTS and didn't really hit it, so Taker came right back with the Tombstone Pile Driver. Taker covered Punk with a classic Taker tongue out cover, but Punk kicks out at the last moment. Both men fought on their knees and then traded punches. They've got the Yeah Boo cheers going, but there didn't appear to be a favorite. They battled back and forth, back to their feet, and Taker grabbed Punk by the throat. Punk flailed his arms, and the referee was knocked down. Taker went for the last ride, but Punk had the urn and slammed it over Taker's head. So now you've got the ref bump included. Punk made the cover in Taker tongue out style. Taker kicked out at the last possible moment. The crowd was definitely buying into the possibility. Moments later, they jockeyed for position in the middle of the ring. Taker got the better of it and put Punk down with a tombstone piledriver for the 3 count. After the match, took the urn back, sat it down in the ring, and then got down on one knee and struck the pose. And also fireworks displayed shot off behind the stadium. 21-0 appeared on the big screens. And yes, folks, that's 21-0. As one of my buddy Andre stated, he was only 20-0. Get it right, Andre. Undertaker's defeated streak is still going. Undefeated streak at WrestleMania. Well, the match took 22 minutes, 10 seconds. Out. They did it. Whether you loved it or hated it, the build for the match, Taker and Punk came through with a gem. They had the crowd buying into their near falls, even though there were overwhelmingly majority of the fans in attendance entered the show, assuming Taker would win. They had the fans at ringside on their feet, and they were well earned. This is an awesome chant. The best match of the night so far, and it's not even close. Slim Jim commercial aired. The Miz, Kofi Kingston, and Caitlyn spoke about donation that Slim Jim had made to the USO. Then the announcer spoke at ringside and set up a video of John Cena and his redemption. A Triple H and Brock Lesnar video package was shown. Shawn Michaels makes his entrance. Brock Lesnar makes his entrance with a smiling Paul Heyman behind him. Lesnar is much more cut than he has been since he left WWE the first time. Damn, Brock has a big bruised cheek. Well, that's what you get when you get run into the ring post. And don't put your hands up to block it. There you go. There was a long pause with Triple H's music played. He entered through some type of the 80s metal entrance prop. And he ended up with white powder all over him from the smoke machine or some prop. Lindsay Lohan is getting the shakes if she's watching this. It's too bad because the powder was so distracting in the lighting that it became the focus of the entrance. Match number 7, Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman versus Triple H with Shawn Michaels. No holds barred match with Triple H's career on the line. Triple H and Lesnar brawled right from the start. The crowd was still coming down from the Taker versus Punk match and was a bit slow waking up. At ringside, Lesnar performed a big suplex on the floor. He picked up Hunter and dropped him on the announcer's table. He picked up him again and slammed him through the Spanish announce table. Wow, this time it finally broke. Lesnar let out a primal scream that will be heard all over YouTube. He performed another big suplex that threw Hunter onto the remains of the Spanish announce table. Lesnar laughed and then let out a less comedic yell. The crowd reacted to the big suplexes and major spots, but they were otherwise very quiet. Back inside the ring, Lesnar continued with the big suplexes. He looked down at Michaels and smiled. "Why do you put yourself through this?" Heyman yelled to Triple H from ringside. "Stay down." Lesnar has a nasty-looking scrape across his pec and a bloody mouth. He continued to dominate the match until Hunter came back with a clothesline that knocked Brock into the timekeeper's area. Triple H pulled out a chair and slammed it over Lesnar's back inside the ring. Lesnar hit another suplex. Shawn Michaels climbed onto the ring apron. Heyman stood on the other side and told Lesnar to put him down. Brock aggressively knocked Michaels off the ring apron with a forearm shot. Triple H came back with a spine buster. Brock came back with an F5. But before he could hit the move, Shawn ran in. HBK went for the sweet chin music, but Lesnar caught his foot and performed the F5 on Michaels. Triple H was waiting for Lesnar when he got up and performed a pedigree and then took a second attempt on him. Triple H went to ringside and pulled out the sledgehammer and tried to hit Brock with it, but Lesnar avoided it and landed in F5. 15 minutes in the match, Brock threw a piece of the ring steps into the ring. The announcer said that Lesnar was out of control. Lesnar waited for the Triple H to get up and then picked up the ring steps, which he slammed into Hunter's head. Brock covered Hunter, who kicked out at 2. Triple H fired back with punches and went for a pedigree, but Lesnar caught his arm with a Chimera. They were in the ropes, but JBL immediately pointed out that the ropes wouldn't save him because of the no-holds-barred format. Brock wrenched on the arm. He sat on the top rope, and the announcer said he was doing it to put more pressure on Hunter's arm. Triple H eventually powered up and slammed Brock Lesnar from the ropes to the mat. This was amazing, Lawler said. He was the loudest person in the building at this point. Brock recovered and charged at Triple H and missed. Brock caught Triple H with a low blow, which the announcers again noted that was completely legal because of no holds barred, no rules. Hunter came back with a chair shot to Brock's elbow. He followed up with another shot to Brock's arm, and it was resting on the ring steps. Triple H then applied the Camaro of his own. Brock looked stunned. Brock teased tapping. Heyman yelled, "Don't you tap!" Heyman entered the ring and grabbed the chair. Shawn, who had a bloody nose from the earlier forearm, was there to hit Heyman with the sweet chin music. Brock teased tapping out, and the crowd was into it. Brock eventually powered up and picked up Triple H, then slammed him down on the ring steps. Triple H applied the Camaro lock again. Brock once again teased tapping, but he picked up Hunter and slammed him on the steps again at 21 minutes and 55 seconds. Triple H applied the Camaro for the third time. Brock teased tapping again. He once again powered up and tried to slam Hunter down, but Hunter caught him with a DDT on the ring steps. The announcers quickly recapped the DDT. Triple H caught Lesnar with a sledgehammer to the head. Triple H signaled for the pedigree and then performed the move on the ring steps that was set up already in the middle of the ring. Hunter covered Lesnar and pinned him to win the match. Shawn entered the ring to celebrate with Hunter. Shaw's nose was a bloody mess. Triple H won the match in 24 minutes even. I don't know if the crowd never recovered from the Taker Punk match or if they didn't buy into the retirement stipulation. But they didn't do the match any favors. They were every bit as quiet as a Staples Center crowd was for the first Lesnar vs. Hunter match. The difference was there was a hell of a lot more to cheer about this match. Sure, they had popped for some of the Lesnar suplexes, but both guys really worked hard and had an intense brawl. They deserved better. This was the second best match of the night so far, behind Taker vs. Punk. Commercial aired for Extreme Rules on May 19th. Commercial aired for Rock's Pain and Gain movie. WWE Hall of Fame recap. Commercial for the USA Network special airing for Tuesday. Howard Finkel introduced the members of the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2013. Mick Foley, Booker T, Trish Stratus, Bob Backlund, and Donald Trump were introduced. The music changed, and Bruno Sammartino was last introduced. Big applause for everyone other than Trump, who was booed loudly. A video aired for the WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans. The event takes place April 6, 2014. Justin Roberts announced the attendance for the MetLife Stadium was 80,676. Pyro shot off on the stage at the top of the stadium. Sorry, Brodus, but Cena didn't have to use the restroom this year. No mixed tag match, as they knocked it out of the ballpark. Ring entrances for the main event took place. John Cena was booed loudly. Rock made his entrance to a big pop. Justin Roberts handled the in-ring introduction for the championship match. Finally, match number 8. Rock versus Cena for the WWE Championship. Cena knocked Rock down with a shoulder block. First 7 minutes of the match was slow as they took turns on offense. There was an audible boring chant as the show build continued. The announcer said that neither man had really opened it up yet. The pace picked up at 10 minutes in, as with a series of moves and counters that resulted in Rock applying the sharpshooter for a decent pop. Cena escaped the move and caught Rock with a slam. The crowd came back to life with loud boos. Cena smiled, and the announcer said, "He feeds on it." Cena did the "You can't see me" bit and had some fans chanting along. He went for the 5-knuckle shuffle, but Rock moved and DDT'd Cena. Rock set up for the rock bottom, but after an awkward transition, Cena applied the STF, which didn't put Rock away. 12 minutes 30 seconds in, Cena slammed Rock down and did the "You can't see me" routine again. Cena hits the 5-knuckle shuffle, and the second time to mostly boos. Rock teased the people's elbow, and the crowd roared. But Cena reached up and caught Rock with an STF. Rock slowly powered out, as the announcer said no one has ever been able to power out of that move. They got to their feet, and Rock caught Cena with the rock bottom at 14 minutes 15 seconds for a 2 count. They got back to their feet, and Cena caught Rock with an attitude adjustment for a 2 count for his own. Lawler said Cena appeared to be playing possum, trying to lure the Rock in. Cena got back to his feet first and went to the top rope. Cena went for the top rope leg drop, but Rock moved and followed up with a spine buster. Rock performed the people's elbow and went for the cover. The crowd started chanting, but Cena kicks out and then rolled to the floor at 16 minutes 15 seconds. Rock and Cena traded punches and got the yeah boo reactions from the crowd again. There's a crowd cheering for Rock and for Cena boos. He got the better of the punches and then ran the ropes for a crossbody, but Cena caught him. Rock slipped away from Cena and executed rock bottom for a 2 count. Rock sat up for the people's elbow, but he stopped and did "You can't see me" hand gesture, mocking Cena. When he ran the ropes, Cena popped up before performed the attitude adjustment. Coleslaw said last year it was Cena toying with The Rock that cost him the match, as they showed the replay of Rock's taunting nearly costing him his match. Good storytelling. Rock and Cena once again traded punches in the middle of the ring and got the Borgasms again reaction. Cena ended up slipping around Rock and rolled up for a 2 count. They got up and jockeyed for position again, and this time Cena performed rock bottom on the Rock and got a 2 count cool spot for his own. So they're trading special moves. 21 minutes 25 seconds in, Cena thought about going for the "You can't see me" gesture, but he stopped and then smiled. The announcer assumed that he thought better of it, but Cena teased doing the Rock shtick instead. He ran the ropes for the people's elbow. Rock popped up, and Cena stopped on the ropes and did the "You can't see me" bit and went for the attitude adjustment, but Rock slipped out, hit the rock bottom for a good 2 count again. 23 minutes 20 seconds in, Rock caught Cena with a kick to the gut, and it puts him down with a good DDT. The crowd settled down as Rock was waiting for Cena to get back to his feet. Cena got up and avoided the rock bottom and countered into the attitude adjustment for the pinfall 1, 2, 3 in an even 24-minute match. After the match, the referee handed Cena the new WWE Championship. Cena looked down at the belt. Rock got back to his feet and they met in the center of the ring. Cena and Rock talked. I'm not a lip reader, but they exchanged positive words. Rock told him that he came back for this moment. They eventually shook hands and hugged. There were more boos and cheers for the handshake. Cena left the ring with the WWE Championship. Rock remained in the ring and played to the crowd by saying thank you. Rock went to ringside and hugged his mother, daughter, and other family members and friends. Rock walked to the top of the stage where Cena was awaiting. Once Rock made it to the top of the stage, Cena saluted him. Rock returned the favor. Cena raised Rock's hands, and then Rock used the other hand to point to Cena. Fireworks went outside the stadium. Coleslaw said it was a main event for the ages. Cena yelled, "The champ is here to close the show." An entertaining match down the stretch with all the big match near falls you would expect, but it just didn't pack much of a punch. Nearly as important as last year's match, despite the WWE Championship being on the line. It was still entertaining and it felt like the main event. But the rock bottoms and the attitude adjustment spots over and over became repetitive. Good work and a strong effort by both men, but it wasn't as hot the second time around. Overall, WrestleMania felt like a 3-match show that appeared to be on the paper. Even mostly undercard matches that I was looking forward to feel like a throwaway undercard match rather than a meaningful WrestleMania undercard matches. Post-match routine of Rock and Cena is going to drive the Cena haters and those bored with his acts nuts. It told the story that Rock said it was going to tell when he said he wasn't going to pass the torch. And that concludes my report for this event. Thanks again and peace out.